Okay, we are back. Beacon of Hype here. Welcoming everyone back to our Virtual Murder series. Continuation of our Virtual Murder 3, Who Killed Brett Penance, the environmental surfer. And sorry again, it's been about a month plus since the last upload, but if you guys knew any idea of what's gone into me attempting to get this latest installment going, you'd be laughing. I had done maybe a week or two ago. I had done close to an hour plus of a video recording on my trusty tripod with the cell phone, and it cut off after the hour plus mark, and I didn't realize it. And then literally about 40 minutes ago, I was in the midst of getting this other upload recorded and ready to go out to you to start our scenario number 2. And I suddenly, in the midst of recording, a phone call pops up on the phone, and I went to ignore it, and somehow in that move, and it decided to expand that little prompt that shows up on the screen, and it effectively cut the video off. So, needless to say, this has been quite laborious trying to get scenario 2 going, but we're going to try our best here to get this done and have something clean and somewhat, professionally put together, at least to the extent that I can pull that off for you. So we're going to start scenario number 2. I feel like this is deja vu for me today. But, so for you guys, obviously, we're going to see, in this instance, for Virtual Murder 3 and 4, they began changing things up even more than our previous installments with Sam Rupert and Elspeth Haskard's murders, where they all had the same method of murder. In this instance, for Brett Penance, not only are there 3 different killers per scenario, one killer, one method of murder is going to be at play for each scenario. So last time we had Brett being shot while he was surfing, and that was the result of Al Ciprano, who was basically roped into doing that job on behalf of Frederick Kinsella. And we even had our repeat suspect, Edward Talaman, also showing up as part of that because he allowed them to get past the gate. But in this case, we have a whole new report of the murder with a whole new method of killing, so let's find out.
A call came in about 20 minutes ago. A body was just found washed up on Surfside Beach. A local surfer named Brett Penance. He was found by a woman out walking her dog. He's been missing since late yesterday. Penance told his mother he was heading out to surf the big swells coming in. Janet Penance reported her son missing at 8:30 p.m. last night. His car was found still parked at the beach where he had been surfing an hour later. We talked to some of his surfing buddies who were with him on Friday. They all quit early because the waves were too rough. They told us Penance had kept surfing. Initially, we ruled it an accidental death from drowning, but the autopsy's just in, and it looks like murder. The pathologist found toxic levels of nicotine in the victim's bloodstream. The catch is that the victim didn't smoke. Moreover, the high concentration points to a single massive dose. It looks like Brett Penance was poisoned. The autopsy also turned up a mentholated salve that's nearly 31% nicotine by volume. It's smeared all over the inside, lower back of Brett's wetsuit. Applied like this, topically, nicotine can't kill, but it does make you dizzy and nauseous. The doctor thinks that's what killed him, not the nicotine itself, but drowning caused by Penance's toxic reaction to it. The medical examiner found traces of vomit in Penance's throat. So if the salve is what killed him, the question becomes who put it there. A champion surfer on his way to Stanford University on a full academic scholarship is not your usual murder target. Several of his friends think it has to do with his involvement in the fight over the condo development at Fossil Cove. They all say Brett was adamantly opposed to it, and wasn't afraid to say so. The permit battle has practically split the town in two. There aren't the usual tests available from the crime scene because we didn't treat it as a suspicious death initially. But we have impounded the victim's car, Detective. We've also sealed off his room at home in case there are any clues there. It's a very clever murder, boss. Whoever did it is going to be difficult to catch.
Alright, so a very unique scenario here where the victim was now poisoned. So let's go to the crime scene. Again, having run through this now more than a few times and had the errors occur that did previously, I can tell you that obviously we don't have much to go by here because it was originally considered an accidental drowning. So while we have the crime scene here, we can look at the body. None of these tests are going to be applicable. Except, and all we have here is at the bottom where there's just a notation that there are no forensic results available from the crime scene. It was assumed the death was an accident and therefore no forensic tests were performed. So if anything, it actually saves us some time because we don't have to inspect too many details about anything that we might not already have noticed from the police footage or what have you. We just wait for the autopsy and then get the details then. So for the suspects, what we're gonna have to do, unfortunately, in order to get all possible information on what matches and what doesn't match with our suspects in relation to the crime scene and any other incriminating information, we have to click on all of the interviews that we want to have in order to get the additional information after we've interviewed them and also verified or looked into their alibis. We're going ahead and we're gonna skip a few of these people because we actually know we don't need to be suspecting that they're guilty in scenario number 2, and that's 3 people: Al Ciprano, Fred Kinsella, and Edward Talman. All 3 of them, in their own way, were connected to scenario number 1's murder playout. So, in essence, they can't be the killer in scenario number 2. So we're going to save some time here as these interviews, just clicking on them, even if we don't play them through, it still eats up some time. So we're going to just cancel those 3 out and get the rest of them on record, just so we can verify everything and potentially connect some dots after we've spent the time that we need to spend. Amos, we get out of there. Nothing from Lucy. Margaret Harden. Nothing from Margaret either. Stella Gibbs.
Just to remind you, Detective, you've used 1 hour and you have 5 left.
So quickly it got gobbled up. Okay. Nothing on Stella. Okay. Jason. Nothing on Jason. Braxton. Nothing for Braxton either. So last one we need is Cynthia.
Excuse me.
Yes.
There are 4 hours remaining. Have you tried retracing the victim's route?
Alright. Get out of there. Okay, Cynthia does have a light up note still.
I checked into it, and the only developments that Cynthia Rose has opposed are the ones that were in her own neighborhood. And another thing, she has a great garden. I wonder if she ever uses pesticides like nicotine alkaloid.
Okay, that's something that is different. I don't think that was... I know that Cynthia had that additional note in the first scenario about only shooting down developments that were in her neighborhood or right next to her. But the part about having a garden and maybe having some experience with nicotine alkaloid, that's new. So it's important to note that she might be more of a likely suspect in this scenario than the first one. Okay, so we got that done. Let's get our witnesses. This is also, I think, something we can skip the majority of these interviews with the witnesses, because regardless of which scenario that we're in, the majority of these don't change, because most of these are strictly there to implicate a particular suspect based on events that have already played out, regardless of how Brett is killed. So we're going to go just briefly to give you a rundown. I forget her name, A. Armstrong. She's the one that's a friend of Cynthia Rhodes, her daughter, I believe. And she's over at the house and is able to overhear Cynthia saying something on the phone to somebody else about how Brett was going to get himself killed if he didn't watch himself. So that implicated Cynthia. Harriet Wilson, she was just talking about how she had noticed and overheard the confrontation that Al had with Brett after one of the board meetings about Fossil Cove, so that implicated Al. Janet Penance, it was more about indicating when he left the house to go surfing, and when she reported him missing. So that there's nothing changes there. Randy Howland, Randy's interview just points the finger at Jason Turley, how Brett had broken up a fight or an assault on Jason's part when he was assaulting his girlfriend at the time, and that gave Jason a motive. James Holt was the journalist or reporter that Brett was supposed to meet the night he was killed, to drop off paperwork in relation to the Fossil Cove numbers. Carlos Foster, his interview implicated Braxton Smith because Carlos told us about how Brett and Braxton had a one-night stand, and Braxton was seemingly like watching him, borderline stalking him afterward. Frida Callahan, she's the one that works at the surf shop that Brett also worked at, and she implicated Margaret Hardin because Margaret had gone to the shop and was asking all sorts of questions about Brett specifically, as opposed to anything else to do with the shop. So the only two that we're going to look at that actually do change depending on the scenario that we're in are Courtney Rook and Joel Franklin, because they're eyewitnesses. They're not implicating a suspect. They're actually eyewitnesses to Brett's actions or what they saw beachside. So let's go to Courtney first.
Your name?
Courtney Rhodes, you want to know about the dead guy, right?
Yes, we do.
Well, see, there was a guy out surfing last night. The waves were really, really big, so it was kind of hard to see him because the rain was so heavy. But I didn't see anyone else.
Do you remember the exact time?
It was getting kind of dark. I was out looking for my daughter Sam because he has to be in before dinner. That's the rule. So it was maybe 15 minutes before 6. We eat at 6. That's how come I know the time. But just before I went in, I saw the surfer guy coming out of the water.
Was there anyone else?
Yep. There was someone in a green sweater walking over the dunes towards him. I think it was a girl.
Okay. If I recall correctly from scenario number 1, it cut off. Either her video was totally different or cut it off at the part where she says that they eat at 6. Because that was it. Because obviously in scenario number 1, Brett doesn't come out of the water. He's gone in and eventually is shot while in the water surfing. So let's go to Joel. If I recall, Joel's might have a noticeable jump cut. Maybe more than one. Let's see.
My name is Joel Franklin.
house on Surfside, the beach where the victim disappeared. I didn't know him, but yesterday when the storm was coming up, I was outside. I love thunderstorms, have since I was a kid. This one was a beaut. It was about 10 minutes to 6. I looked up the beach toward the west. I hadn't expected to see anyone, so when I did, I was surprised. There was a young man about a quarter of a mile off. He was talking to another person, someone with long hair, blondish brown. It could have been a woman. Anyway, the two of them stood there in the thunder and pouring rain talking. After a few minutes, they walked up over the dunes toward the public parking lot. That's all I know.
Mr. Franklin, do you remember if the other person was taller or shorter than the surfer?
A little shorter. It must have been a woman.
Yep, so there were some cuts there. But in that scenario, or this scenario I should say, in this interview, Joel does go into more detail about seeing someone talking to Brett that was shorter, long, dark, blonde, brown hair, and had to have been a woman. Alright, so we got that. So now, so we've got that covered. What we're going to do is get the alibis covered for the people that we want to actually get some more information about. We have to verify this. The videos that we get for the alibi explanations are the same as all across all the scenarios. Nothing changes. So essentially, we're gonna do the same thing that we've done before. We're gonna click on these just to get them logged in our time bank here, and get credit for them. So when we look at additional information, it'll be accessible. Otherwise, if we don't do this,
Detective, you're halfway there. The autopsy should be ready by now, shouldn't they?
yes, shouldn't they? Yes. All right. So you're gonna all but the three gentlemen that were part of the first murder. Okay. So we got all of them done. So let's go to other sources, which is where we'll get our non-testimonial evidence that we can get some more details about the suspects that are actually likely for scenario number 2. So let's start with Braxton. Okay. All right. Good. So for Braxton Smith, we have a positive match as far as fingerprints found on the rear door of Brett's car. And a positive match for the sets of tire prints at the scene. And if you look at her hair color, it's a good chance that could be who Brett was talking to. Let's give Cynthia a try here. Alright, there's no positive match as far as fingerprints at the crime scene. No positive match as far as tire prints at the scene either. So her alibi was that she was cooking for guests and put a lot of prep into it, so on the surface level her alibi is very solid, but then they threw in that little extra note about her having a well-maintained garden and maybe her knowing something about pesticides, including nicotine alkaloids, so who knows. Let's give Margaret a try here. Margaret, no positive match as far as prints at the crime scene, no positive match as far as tire prints at the scene, so that's a no-go with her. Let's go to Jason.
It's your chief speaking. Only 2 hours left to solve this murder. The Chamber of Commerce is having a conniption fit about this.
When aren't they?
They say murder is all wrong for their vacation image. You're telling me.
Okay, Jason Turley, no positive matches at the crime scene, fingerprints or tire prints. Okay. Amos. Same for Amos, no positive matches, tire prints or fingerprints at the crime scene. So the non-testimonial evidence, I feel like, I know when I first started playing these games, I didn't go this in depth, and I feel like had I done that, it would have maybe made it a lot easier to narrow down the possible killer. But, and also it's time management. So, oh, okay. So in Stella's case, positive matches to prints at the crime scene. No positive match as far as tire prints, though. That's interesting. So in terms of positive matches, we've only got Braxton and Stella. Okay. Alright, so let's see, because we have to make sure we're mindful of the time where it cuts us off at about the 30-minute mark to go to the press conference. So let's see what we can do. Well, let's get the autopsy covered. We'll breeze through this really quick just to kind of, get an idea of what we're dealing with here and maybe the method in which he was killed with this stuff. So we already know about his build and everything, and that he was discovered on Surfside Beach by the local resident walking her dog. So the back of the wetsuit contains a considerable amount of clinging sand. Sand appeared consistent with the position of the body at the time of discovery. So post-mortem abrasions on the exposed portions of the victim's face and hands, consistent with churning action as the body was washed ashore. There's no other visible external trauma. 2 sets of unidentified fingerprints are embedded in the rubber on the front of the wetsuit and do not appear to be new. Okay. So, nothing to do with our killer. Okay. Considerable amount of greasy mentholated ointment on the interior of the wetsuit in the area of the victim's lower back. The ointment appears to have been rubbed off the victim's lower back, where it is also present in abundance. Ointment has an unusual and unpleasant odor that resembles tobacco. A toxicology report on the ointment is requested. See attached, which I believe we have. That's one of the other files that we have here. Body is trim, blah, 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 blah. Some water in the victim's lungs. So, let's see. Victim's pupils slightly dilated. We already have the whole thing about the ointment. So internal. External findings, internal findings. Okay. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, the victim is a nationally ranked surfer familiar with rough surf. His skill in the water makes him an unlikely victim of accidental drowning, despite the weather conditions. I believe he drowned as a result of a violent vomiting fit that in turn probably caused choking. The cause of the vomiting is at present unknown. Such vomiting is one of the symptoms of severe poisoning. Poisoning is a possibility also suggested by the dilation of the pupils. Other common symptoms of poisoning: excessive salivation and perspiration would not be present due to exposure to the water. A toxicology analysis of the victim's blood and of the ointment on the victim's back has been requested. Okay. Here's the toxicology report. So this is what we're probably going to find out about where and how maybe this ointment was obtained or what it consists of. So it's showing all the tests that they conducted. Okay, performed an analysis of the victim's blood. Subsequent analysis showed a level of 1.1 milligrams of nicotine per liter to be present. This level of nicotine, while not enough to cause respiratory paralysis directly, is certainly enough to cause an onset of severe dizziness, blurred vision, and extreme nausea. Such a nicotine level is also consistent and possible through topical ingestion, suggesting that the nicotine was absorbed through the victim's skin on the lower back where the ointment had been applied. So obviously, yeah, that's confirming that Brett didn't ingest or anything like that. It was actually introduced into his system through whatever was rubbed into his wetsuit on his lower back. Okay. What do we have time for here? I wonder if the nicotine report, if it's anything even of note. It's just a one-page description of what it is. Okay. Nicotine, a thick, greasy, poisonous substance with an unpleasant tobacco odor. No known human use for pure nicotine alkaloid. In 1989, a state official in Arizona was prosecuted for illegally using nicotine alkaloid as an animal tranquilizer in a rabies control program. Tobacco is 0.5 to 0.8% nicotine by weight. 40 to 60 milligrams are lethal if injected. Nicotine creates a burning sensation when applied to the skin. Subject will feel the effects of topical application within an hour. Side effects of the drug are a burning sensation of the skin, nausea, vomiting, dizziness, blurred vision, blindness, coma, and death if injected. It sounds like a lot of these ads for these miracle drugs nowadays, where the side effects actually are worse than the original problem. Not commonly available because of low demand. Alright, not commonly available. Again, meaning that it's somebody that would have access to it themselves or through a means other than just going to a store. Let's see if we have time to check the car.
There's only 1 hour left. Use your time carefully. From here on, every minute counts.
Why 2 sets of prints? The technician says one pair overlaps the other and was probably made at a later time. This overlapping pair is also the set on the inside. Did they steal something?
Alright, the last time we knew it was Braxton that had taken the notes or taken the manila envelope with the documents.
The back seat contains a brand new copy of Surf magazine. There are several sticks of surfboard wax, 1 running shoe, a windbreaker, and a jar of liniment for sore muscles. The jar of liniment smelled funny, like chewing tobacco, so we've sent it to the labs. Results will be included in the autopsy. There are no manila envelopes. There are 2 sets of unidentified prints on the rear driver's side door handle, but only 1 pair show up on the seat inside.
Alright, I wonder if I looked that part over in the autopsy where they said that the liniment smelled like tobacco. Alright, we don't have that much time, so let's get out of this. I think to be on the safe side, since now we've covered all the non-testimonial evidence, and we don't really need anything else to be done with the suspect's interviews, giving us access to anything more. I'm going to go ahead and pause this briefly, get out of the game, go back in to give us a full 6-hour bank, and we'll reconvene with looking at retracing Brett's route. So I believe there's some information there that we might be able to find useful. So please hold. Abracadabra. We're back with a full 6 hours. And so now we're going to retrace Brett's route. Alright, and so now you can tell from the first scenario that we played through, even some of the people that we're going to talk to on retracing Brett's route, that's changed. There's some people that we didn't talk to before, some that we did, but we start out with Brett's house, with the mother. I want to say nothing changes with this testimony, but we'll make sure just in case.
Like I told you, Brett left the house around 4 o'clock. He said that he had an errand to run and then he was going down to surf and then he'd be back around 7. He didn't say what his errands were. It could have been the library, the post office, the town offices, anywhere.
Okay, I don't think anything changed on that one. So if we look at the time, so that was at 4. Let's go to Summer Street. With what looks to be a... Oh my god. Insert Donald Trump hair joke here.
I'm the pharmacist at Village Drugs. The Penance boy stopped by late afternoon and bought a copy of the latest issue of Surf magazine. I checked the cash register tape to be certain. It keeps a record of the item, amount, and the time of purchase. It was 4:34 to be exact. I asked Brett about his lower back. It had been bothering him the past few months, and he'd been using a mentholated rub I recommended called Ices. He said the rub was helping.
Okay. So that gives us a different time to latch on to of 4:34. So a half hour or so removed from leaving his house, he goes there. And let's see what we got here. Is this one at the library, or where is she? Okay.
I live right here, number 616, East Main, right opposite the Village Drugs. I was looking out my window watching the storm come in. It must have been about 4:30, 4:45. I just love to watch the activity in the sky. People were coming and going down below. I didn't see the Penance boy, I must admit, but I did see my friend Stella Gibbs. She was putting something in the back seat of her car, the white one. I yelled at her, but she didn't hear me from across the street. She seemed to be in a big hurry, and she scurried off in the opposite direction.
Okay. That's interesting. So Stella was there at the store at the same time Brett was. Okay. So that was actually 4:30. All right, so it's basically, a few minutes removed. So that puts them together essentially at that time. All right, let's see what's going on here.
I was out for a run out on Fillmore Road when Brett passed by. He stopped to say hi. I guess they were planning a party on Sunday at Surfside and they wanted to have a bonfire. It must have been around 20 after 4.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. All right, so wait a second. So he left his house at 4, actually went down here, was down here in the area and talked to this girl. All right, and then went back this way. Let's see what the gas station attendant talks about here.
Brett stopped by for $5 in gas a little after 4. I know because he asked the time. It was 7 after. He and I were chatting about the storm that was coming in. He said it was surfing weather. There's one thing for sure, is that boy loved to surf. He was on his way by 10 after. He turned in the direction of the village.
Okay, that's different from the first scenario. He was part of retracing Brett's route, but the times were different. So yeah, so he actually went from the house to the gas station first, fueled up, then went back into this village area, talked to the girl, then went to the shop, and at the same time that he's at the shop, this lady here sees her friend Stella Gibbs, who's one of our suspects. Okay. And then obviously it ends here at the beach.
Brett met his friends here at 10 minutes to 5. It's only about 15 minutes from Village Drugs on East Main in normal traffic. So, allowing for the weekend, I'd say he came straight here from the drugstore. His friend said that he was already waiting for them when they arrived, but said he'd only just gotten here.
Okay. So he covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and, obviously give out a little bit of a spoiler here. There's nothing in Brett's room that we need to utilize or look at as far as the scenario number 2 goes. Honestly, the only thing we really needed Brett's room for was scenario number 1, as far as finding the videotape that he had left behind in his laundry basket. So we don't need that. So we're now about half hour, coming up in 40 minutes in. So I'd say at this point, let's try to get through the press conference and maybe maybe if we can mark this off around the 50-minute mark just to be safe. We'll see how many in-depth interviews we can get through. But let's give the press conference a whirl. Yep, we're going to do this because we really haven't used less than 3 hours, or we used much more than that. I believe it was a Stanford. Yes. Were there visible hemorrhages anywhere on the victim's skin? Yes. Oh, well, on the face, I thought. No. Which suspects have men's size 9.5 feet? Well, we know it's... Oh, my God. Let's go with the answer that has all guys to it. No? Oh, my God. All right. Why was the victim set to meet with James Holt? We know this to deliver documents implicating falsified hydrology reports. What time did Cynthia Rhodes invite dinner guests to arrive on the night Brett disappeared? Oh, I want to say it was 6:30. Nope. What screenplay was Edward Tallman writing on the afternoon of Brett's murder? Attack of the Zombie Midgets. What was Stella Gibbs' husband's name? I believe it was Emmett. No, damn. I think that was her father then. How many engineers work for Amos's firm? 7? Oh my God, we're going to have to do this over again, aren't we? What kind of car did Edward Tallman see parked at Kinsella's boathouse on the evening of the murder? It was a Mercedes? Yes, that's Margaret's. Why was Jason Turley mad at Brett Penance? Because he'd interfered while Jason was fighting with his girlfriend. Yeah.
I've seen better press conferences, Detective. I think we need to do a little more investigating.
Try it again.
Where is the projected budget of the bus and coat project?
How much did the victim weigh? Oh man, it's 155. Nice. Whom does Janet Penance suspect in the death of her only child? She was going after Kinsella. No? Oh, she's not even sure. Okay. I'm thinking Braxton Smith maybe with Kinsella. Were there visible hemorrhages? We already know from the last failure. The answer is no to this one. When did Mrs. Penance first report her son missing? 8:30 yesterday evening. Yep. Did Edward Talman see a car parked at Kinsella's boathouse? Yes. What substance was found all over the victim's body in profusion? Greasy ointment. What? Okay. I mean, maybe that was kind of like a curveball. How many engineers work for Amos? So we know it's not 7. 5? Ugh. What kind of car does Margaret drive? White Mercedes. Was the victim having an affair with one of the suspects? No. Was Braxton Smith left-handed? She's ambidextrous, wasn't she? No? Dang. Yeah.
I've seen better press conferences, Detective. I think we need to do a little more investigating.
This is what happens when I record this stuff, guys. If I wasn't recording the press conference, I'd be through it already.
What is the projected budget for the bus code project?
Yeah.
Just to remind you, Detective, you've used 1 hour and you have 5 left.
I'm getting there. What were most of the developments that Cynthia Rhodes opposed located in her own neighborhood? Yep. What was Courtney Rook doing last night on the Surfside Beach looking for her dog? What was found in the victim's hair? Sand. What was Margaret Harden doing at the estimated time of death? Excuse me. So I think, was it this one? Yeah, okay. Whose phone number was found on a matchbook in the victim's bedroom? Oh. Suzanne Newcomb's. That was Amos Johnson's former employee that was Brett's contact to get the right numbers for Fossil Cove. What is Jason Turley's girlfriend's name? Andrea. For what time did Cynthia Rose invite Ginner? So no, it wasn't 6:30. Are we gonna say 7:30? Yay! Nice. What kind of car does Amos Johnson drive? Oh man. Was it? Oh well. How many suspects are there? 9. Where does Joel Franklin live? Surfside. Nice.
Great job with the press, Detective. You really let them know who's in control. At this point, you can conduct in-depth interviews with up to 3 suspects, or go straight to making your warrant application. Whatever you do, good luck.
Alright. So honestly, unless someone gives up some information about somebody else, there's no need to interview all the suspects again. So let's try with the 3 that we can maybe connect some dots as far as the method of killing and their fingerprints or presence around Brett at the time of the death. Let's go with Braxton, Cynthia, and Stella. We might have our answer without having to go through all the interviews. Start with Braxton. Some people think your involvement with Brett went deeper than just friends. Mrs. Smith, did you ever follow the victim?
Please, don't tell my husband. Yeah. I sometimes follow Brett just to watch him.
Again, why? That just seems like a repetitive line. Like, why else would you follow somebody just to look the other way? Did you have an affair with Brett?
No. Well, yes. I mean, I wanted to, but he didn't.
What do you think of Cynthia Rhodes? Maybe the answers will change depending on who the killer is.
A politician. She should have channeled all that ambition into a career instead of throwing great dinner parties.
Okay. Edward Talman, does she even know who that is?
I don't think anything. I I've never met nor heard of him.
Right. Al Ciprano, now that he's not the killer.
I think he uses his stutter to draw people in, and then he gouges them. He was desperate to get the Cove after a few lean years, and everybody knew it.
So that answer didn't change. What about Amos?
That he's a lapdog to Kinsella, trying to hide behind a good reputation. It's always sad to see someone sell out.
What does she know about Kinsella?
I already told you. I think he's scum. And so does Lloyd. He says he's connected to the mob.
Okay, so that's what she knows about him. Let's see about Suzanne Newcomb.
No.
Okay, so that means that, like Brett said in the video that he left behind, that he wasn't going to name her, but thanked her. So apparently her name wasn't on any of that paperwork that was going to the journalist, because otherwise she would know about it. Oh, here we go. Did you ever use pesticides in your garden?
No, we're entirely organic now. I finally persuaded Lloyd's mother. She used to spray the roses like mad, but now we use Ivory liquid soap and a 20-to-1 concentrate.
Okay, whatever that means. All right, so that's interesting. Again, this is why it's like part of you wants to do all the in-depth interviews, because obviously some of the questions and or answers either change, or some questions that weren't in the previous scenario are in this one because of the method of the murder. All right, let's try Cynthia. Again, her alibi is pretty solid, but we did find out from the autopsy that the ointment would have taken its effect on him after an hour of application. So, here we go.
Here? No, never. Not in South Fork. Maybe some summer renters passing through, but no one by that name lives here that I know of.
All right, Margaret Harden.
She seems nice enough. A bit studied, maybe. A local girl made good. Bound to be a little self-conscious.
Whatever that means. What do you think of Stella Gibbs?
I like Stella. I like feisty older women. And she's nobody's fool.
Have you ever walked the Gibbs farm and gone by the wetlands?
No. The board hasn't had any reason to yet.
What can you tell me about Amos Johnson?
Well, he's supposed to have a male companion, but he looked awfully comfortable with Beth Wasatch out at the Lobster Pot on Route 30 last week. I could have sworn they were holding hands under the table.
She is a gossipy politician type. What about Al Ciprano?
I think Al sometimes got a little too defensive at some of the meetings, but he's an excellent contractor. He's made it through several years when other businesses his size have closed.
Okay. What does she think of Kinsella?
I haven't formed an opinion yet, to tell you the truth. I try to keep personally neutral with someone in his position. There's plenty of time to become friends after someone gets their permit.
What does she think of Braxton?
A mouse. Although she did stand up and make a number of strong statements opposing the Cove Project.
Okay. This is just, I wonder if the answer changes, again, if she's the murderer.
Well, I might have used it as a figure of speech to someone in a private conversation, but that's all it was, a figure of speech. You don't think I killed him, do you?
No, Okay, here we go with the nicotine alkaloid.
I believe that's used mainly on farms and ranches, isn't it? I've never used it now.
Okay, so she just answered the question. So it's farms and ranches that it's typically used on. I can't remember if something popped up. Did Lucy brighten up after this one?
I think Al sometimes got a little too defensive at some of the meetings, but he's an excellent contractor. He's made it through several years when other businesses his size have closed.
Okay, I guess not. For some reason I thought that Lucy lightened up on one of these ones. Alright, so let's go to Stella, and we're getting close. We're at the 50-minute mark, so let's hurry up. So Mrs. Gibbs, who do you think murdered Brett Penance?
Excuse me. There are 4 hours remaining. Have you tried retracing the victim's route?
Branston Smith, hussy. She set her sights right on that young man. And my guess is he didn't return the favor. And she's even got children. It's disgusting.
Let's see. Let's get. I want to get to the. Anything about? Oh, it's okay. Do you smoke?
No.
Okay. Are you good? Oh yeah, Catherine. This is the one that saw her at the store.
Particularly. I've no use for busybodies. Since her accident, all she does is look out that window and gossip.
Okay. This is all this is about the pesticides. Nice. Who has the pesticides on the farm?
Well, we don't have a use for them any longer. I've told you before, we only farm a vegetable patch these days.
So that means you have them in abundance. Okay. What are your fingerprints doing on the rear door of Brett Penance's car?
Well, I had words with him in the parking lot after last week's meeting. Now, I may have rested my hand against his car door. Is there a law against that?
Yes, you're under arrest. Okay. Did you know that nicotine is a poison?
Well, I guess it kills enough people. I'd say it's poison.
Okay. Do you know what nicotine alkaloid is?
No.
But she does. She would. Alright. Yep. Methinks we have our killer. But what we're going to do, we're going to end the video here. Just to be on the safe side. And in the next installment, we're going to go ahead and do our not in-depth. We're going to do our warrant applications for all the suspects. Just to see, again, what we get for our explanations as to the people that we know were on the guilty side of things in the first scenario, and see if anything changes with our other suspects, including who our killer is going to be for scenario number 2. But again, this is Beacon of Hype. Thanking you guys for tuning in. Sorry once again for the delay and how long it's been in between uploads, but hopefully get on the right track here. I'm on the East Coast and we've got a blizzard coming our way, so who knows, we might be seeing some more uploads if I'm kept in hibernation long enough. But thank you guys again. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.